Please do not message or call, as the following programme is a rerun of a previous live show. Any announcements made during the repeat may now not be applicable.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and you're listening to Sisters Speak on Aspire 105.1 FM. After a very, very long time, you're here with me, Faiza.
You're here with me, Mariam.
And today we have a very special guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Zarish and I'm here today as a special guest.
Yes, and today we will be discussing women, careers and culture, which is very, I'd say, somewhat controversial topic and also a interesting, fairly good topic as well. But before we do get into that, Mariam, tell everyone what our show is about.
So our show is a platform for Muslim girls to voice their own opinions on current events and issues, and even form discussions on general topics such as religion, culture, politics and social media. We want to know that all opinions and views are our own, and we respect all other opposing views.
Thank you for that. So remember, guys, when you are listening to our show, please do get in touch with us and join in on our discussion as well. We'd love to know all your thoughts and opinions. So you can contact us by texting in on 07779481822. So you can do that on Facebook or just normal text. Or you can comment under our Facebook live stream. We are live now. Everyone say hi to the camera. And now let's get into it. On our show every week, we do something called Thought for the Week. So it's this segment which basically, you know, something that we've learned, something we found beneficial, something just a reminder to ourselves first and foremost before everyone else. So Zarish, since you're our special guest today, what is your thought for the week?
I think my thought of the week would probably be live life to the full extent, because you never know what may happen. For example, if you don't mind me telling you, I was actually involved in a really severe accident recently, and I realised that, you know, I could have lost my life, and all I do right now is currently focus on work and education, but I should balance that with my social life and try and live it to the best extent, because you never know, I might not be alive tomorrow.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, yes.
But interesting, though, you nearly had a huge, really bad accident.
Yeah, but alhamdulillah, I'm okay now and I'm here today.
Yeah, I guess that's what it's all about, right? It's learning from people's experiences, and, you know, it's just actually valuing every opportunity that you get. You know, it's so easy to focus on what you don't have as opposed to what you do have. And as, you know, our guest said today, that, you know, she's going to live life to the fullest, and this experience has shaped that. So I definitely think that's a very good reminder.
What's your thought of the week?
My thought of the week is, I guess you can bank some of that, is take up every opportunity. I mean, I think it's so easy to have this idea in your head that, you know, when you take an opportunity, you should have the best results. So, for example, if you want a particular job or you want to go to a particular career, which we'll be discussing later on in the show, it's so easy if when you don't actually, you know, like you take the 2 steps towards your job or your career or your ambition, and a hurdle comes along the way. It's so easy to become demotivated, but you have to realize that, you know, you had the opportunity to take that 2 steps and someone else didn't. You know, someone like who sat at home and didn't go to the interview because, you know, they were too scared that they're going to become rejected. And I feel that, you know, having that mindset that, you know, just try everything and try to, you know, like she said, like live life to the fullest.
I think my thought of the week is going to stem from something that I watched recently, and I'm not going to say the name of the person, but it's just this video on a public platform, and it was just the person was just reading out loads of hate comments. And I don't know if you guys saw...
Dina Tokyo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
That
just
was
like
horrible.
her reading out loads of hate comments, and it was kind of heartbreaking to see that, you know, social media and how toxic it can be sometimes. People can literally write in and say the most horrible and rudest things, and it affects people what you say, you know. And remember, you're going to be held accountable for everything that you're saying as well. So how can you throw out like such awful things and say so many things about a person that you don't personally know as well? thoughts on social media and the toxicness of it?
I think, as you said, even if you personally know someone, there's nothing justifies you speaking horribly or, sending hate to someone or even just speaking negatively about them. If you don't like a person, it's not your position to go tell them. You can just don't say anything.
Yeah.
I think that's the smallest thing you could do. Just not speak negatively about someone.
I have a question for you, Zarish, now.
Yeah.
As being, for example, very popular on a public platform, do you deal with hate?
Well, I do deal with hate, but to be honest, I just ignore it. I do think
So
hate
your
derives
advice
from...
would be to ignore
it. I think it derives from jealousy. They're taking the time out to go on your page, look at your pictures, and then to form an opinion about you, and then to comment that opinion. I mean, you are clearly jealous of me. You're interested in my life. You want to be me. So what I choose to do is ignore. That's the best thing to do. And what they want is attention. And if I'm going to give them that attention, they'll never stop.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is just ignore and just say, wow, I've got another fan.
But why is that?
You've got another fan.
Fair enough. I think it's a lot, especially because if someone's reading those kind of comments and it's about them as well, it takes a toll on the mental health. Because do you ever think about the hate comments or anything?
There have been times where I've obviously received comments and it has been hurtful, but then again, I just ignore it. Yeah, there have been some horrible comments made to me. I do have quite a lot of followers on Instagram, and when I've heard those comments, I've gone back and spoken to my sisters, even my parents. But with me, because I'm so busy with my life, I just don't let it get to me. And again, I just stick to I just stick to the point that I just ignore it. It's fine.
Which is the best way, I guess. Ignore it. I think, fighting fire with fire, it's not worth it. What are you going to gain at the end of the day, especially with people like that?
I know, and half of the time, the people that are making these spiteful comments of you, they have no lives.
Yeah. But I think all in all...
But Dina Tokyo's video... broke my heart. It was 45 minutes.
Yeah, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see the amount of things that people would say, though.
Yeah.
And it came from her own community.
Yeah.
We are the ones that are supposed to support
each other as Muslims as well.
Exactly.
Which is really sad.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think, especially when it comes to social media, be careful, just be wary of everything as well. Don't involve yourself in that kind of...
hate culture.
Yeah. Because what are you going to gain out of it? And those involved as well, just remember, everyone's going to be held accountable for what you say on social media, everything you post, everything, you like, comment, everything, basically. So just be wary of that. So I think Thought of the Week's all done. So now we're getting into the main, biting point of our whole show. So our show today is on women, careers and culture, which can seem quite broad. So culture overall can be very...
controversial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite controversial because there are certain things, everyone has different opinions on culture. And remember, everything we are saying now is our thoughts and views and opinions. However, if anyone else wants to comment as well, please do let us know your thoughts, views and opinions on everything that we will be discussing, especially to the girls out there, since it's women, careers and culture as well. Please do join in our conversation. 07779 481822. You can text or WhatsApp us in, or you can even comment on our Facebook live stream, which is live right now as well. So just say hi, guys.
Hi.
So let's start with female stereotypes in job roles, because I think that's a huge factor that we need to consider, especially now, because I feel like even now, and we're in 2019 and we're still facing this stereotypical views and the culture against females doing certain jobs.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts overall? Have you ever dealt or experienced or heard of anything to do with women should be doing these kinds of jobs and not other jobs because they're women?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't like to name the person in particular. There's been a few. But I still remember a couple of years ago I was doing, because I'm currently a trainee solicitor, and I always wanted to be a barrister. And I was shadowing really big barristers and QCs in court. And what happened was I was advised really badly by these barristers. They all advised me to not go for the bar route, rather go for the solicitor's route, because bar is a job for men, not for women. And I think that is such a stereotype. But at that time, I was new in the legal profession. I said, maybe he's right, maybe they're right. So I decided to go the solicitor's route. Not to say I don't enjoy being a solicitor, I love my job, but I do regret listening to that negative advice. You know, you're always stereotyped, oh, if you're a woman, you can't be a barrister, you can't represent in front of a court, people wouldn't find you comfortable.
Yeah, or there's that stereotypical view you'd get too emotionally invested in.
Yeah, and all of that as well.
But the thing is that we do need more women barristers. There's more representation of us. So if we have a legal case, we'll feel like a woman barrister we will resonate with her as opposed to a man. And sometimes you do need emotional intelligence to understand people.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're representing human beings. You're not representing a specific gender. So in that case, I would argue that, you know, having representation in the law field, especially in regards to, is it called the bar?
Yeah.
The bar, I think women are really, really, they're really, what's the word? They're really important. They're really important.
Yeah. But the sad reality is that, majority of the people think if a man is representing you in court, they're going to come across as more fearful, intimidating, more powerful, more authoritative. So they would rather go to a male barrister.
It's that stereotypical view that, you know, women are the weaker.
Well,
gender and-
I don't believe that personally, but
Yeah.
obviously I represent clients on a daily basis, and I've previously worked places and I've seen clients' opinions. They've always opted for a male barrister as opposed to a women barrister, and it's quite sad, but
Yeah.
it's the reality. And
So I have a question because I don't really know anything about law. Are
Yeah.
the judges mostly male or female?
males, unfortunately. So
Literally,
it's all.
So law is a male-dominated
Do you know,
field.
I think it's quite
I think there's
unfortunate
more female
that-
solicitors though.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stereotype when it comes to women in careers as well. Because think about it, we have that first stereotype of being a woman, and then on top of that, being an ethnic minority as well.
And a religious minority as well.
Exactly.
On top of that.
And it's just like all
Yeah.
of these crossover of different stereotypes that you have to deal with. And like, for example, what are your thoughts and opinions on things like, you know, those listening as well, please do join in our conversation. But, you know, women being told to go down the whole routes of like, for example, doing teaching as opposed to like engineering or something in sports or journalism.
Well, personally, my thoughts on that, obviously, I would say, again, that's completely stereotyping. And, I think a woman should always do what she thinks she's good at and shouldn't listen to other people's opinion. I've obviously been there, done that. I've had advice. Don't be a barrister, be a solicitor. And I fell into that trap. Although, I wouldn't say I fell into that trap because I can always go ahead and become a barrister if I wanted to be. My thoughts are just going to be follow your heart. If you think you are good at it, then stick by it.
But what about it's our culture? You know, when you said don't listen to those people.
I think
It's
there's
a-
a social
it's a culture.
responsibility as our generation to kind of inform the generation after us, and even amongst ourselves, that culture that, to positively encourage each other to pursue specific ambitions that are not culturally accepted. Because you have to understand, from our perspective, we were born and raised in this country, so we have all this resource and information, and we can determine whether there's safety, all the safety issues, we can distinguish that. Whereas our parents, they came new to this country, they immigrated, they have that fear, and it's that uncertainty that creates that fear, and it's our responsibility to kind of lend that hand and explain to them that this is our ambition, and we're representing our religion, our cultures, in doing the ambitions that we want to do. Imagine having Muslim girls or even Asian girls in working Pacific fields. Of course, our culture, our people are going to be the most proudest that look at these girls, that they're doing good for the community.
Yeah.
And it's not like, this is my own opinion. You can argue all you want that Muslims are empowered and Muslim women, they're given the most rights. But if you don't allow them to infiltrate every sector, then how are we going to represent ourselves?
That's true.
Dawah is all about showing yourself, showing your character. And if you don't have a platform to do that, then how are we going to invite people?
Exactly.
And unless you show it, they won't believe it. You need to start showing it.
Definitely.
So I agree with that. Yeah, completely.
So I want to ask you a question. What advice would you give to a person that's studying law? Maybe she's doing her A-levels or GCSEs and they're uncertain about the field. What advice would you give that if they want to pursue something that is like culturally or culturally like unaccepted, like for example being a barrister or something, what would you suggest?
I think my advice here would be obviously focus on uni, get all the work experience you need. Show your parents. Your parents are the most important people in this world. So if you're doing well, whether you're getting work experience, voluntary experience or paid experience, if you're doing well in that legal field, you're learning new things, then why does anyone else matter? Because when you're at the top, they'll be looking up at you and they'll be wishing that it was them. So my advice would be, obviously focus on your education, but do, as a person that's been a law student, get a lot of experience, do a lot of work hard, and even if you have to work free and get that experience, because that experience will be invaluable, it will be priceless, and it will really, really help you in the future. And then this is how you'll get far in your life. At a very young age, you'll see yourself doing the very best that you are doing. And then those people that were obviously putting you down, say for cultural reasons or for whatever reasons, they will then obviously realise that they were wrong.
Do you guys think that there's, I don't know, a saying or a thing as being too ambitious when choosing a certain career? Maybe because the funding isn't there, or maybe because, of course, cultural reasons again. Or just because you're a woman of ethnic minority and a religious minority?
Okay. Well, too ambitious. I don't think there's anything such thing as too ambitious. You should always aim for the best, aim for the highest you can. For example, funding. There's obviously loads of ways you can overcome that hurdle. Cultural reasons, as long as you have supporting parents, and again, it comes back to the point if, for instance, you're being deprived, like say, for instance, your parents, Asian parents want you to get married young, or would rather you get married once you've done an undergraduate degree. Oh, it's time for you to get married. Well, in those, it's your life. If you think you're capable of doing something more, then say, no, I won't, and I want to do this, and I will do it. And then again, when you've done, when you've achieved what you wanted to achieve, your parents will then realise. Or, another advice would be you can always get married at a young age, but then continue with your education. Do not put your education at stop. And if you want to be, not even a solicitor, not even a barrister, anything you want to be, you can if you're really motivated. Even if you're married, even if you've got kids, if you want it, you can do it.
Like if you put your heart to it, you can actually do it. You'll literally be unstoppable. Because it's something that you're so set on and something that you want. And I think that's why it's really important that, when it comes to choosing careers and things like that, especially for girls, don't just think, oh yeah, my career is going to be over because when I get married, I'm just going to have to stay at home.
I know.
Like, move away from that stereotype, because I don't know how many people have heard it, but it's just like, there's that whole, girls in particular have heard that whole saying that, when you're married, you're not going to have time to be working all the time. And but I have a working mom. She does both family and work. Like, there's no reason as to why you can't do both, especially if your heart's set on it and it's something that you want to do. That's why when you're choosing, what kind of career you want to go into, pick something that you want to do, that you like and you'll enjoy.
I think with that, I would say as well, because it's so easy, especially I feel like, this is my own opinions. I feel culturally people, okay, you wanna do a specific ambition, you want to do a specific career, but they just look at the money that comes with it. Like, if the wages is good, then go for that. But I feel like that is not the most, I don't think it's the best idea, to be honest, because if you don't like something and you do it just for the wages or the money or the finance, then you are not going to work above and beyond. You're going to settle for that one job. And I feel like if you, for example, if you want to become a teacher, I know, like, in terms of in terms of career fields, not many people respect teachers, but I have the most respect for the working field, because they're cultivating the future generation. I think they deserve the most respect. But if you want to become a teacher and your family is saying to you, it's not, you have more potential because you can get more wages, I would say to go with what your heart says. And if you want to become a teacher, you'll strive to work even above that. So you might become a head teacher, or you might work for different schools. But if you go for a career that only satisfies you in terms of finance, you're just going to stick yourself to that, and you'll never move up, and you'll never feel happy. I mean, it's gonna give you money, but it's gonna cost you your mental health. It's gonna cost you your happiness, and those two things are more valuable than finance, because you have money. Money comes and goes.
So, should being a wife or a mother stop a woman from pursuing her ambitions or certain careers?
I think if you have that conversation with your partner before you even get married, and saying that this is what I would like to do, and of course you are taking a different course of your life if you're gonna get married. Of course, there's more responsibilities for you, but it doesn't mean you need to abandon your existing commitments. So I think it's just about collaborating with the person you want to get married to, and you are married to, in terms of what works best for both of you.
Yeah.
I think that's what's missing. I feel like, when you get married, you act as separate entities. It shouldn't be like that. You're collaborating, you're one partnership. You should be able to, both of you should be able to pursue your careers and your ambitions. But it doesn't mean that you reduce your existing commitments.
Yeah. And also, if your husband's not supportive of your career, then, you should try and make him see why you should be. For example, before you get married, obviously, like you said, have that conversation with him, have that conversation with his family, because obviously his family is always going to be part of your marital life. So you should make it clear that you want to continue with your career. As long as you're doing something that makes you happy and you feel like you're making a difference, it's good for you. Again, like you said earlier, I'd like to add on about the wages and the salary. I would like to add on to that. Remember, that's completely correct. Don't do a job for the money, because you actually end up spending more time at work than at home. You're at work 9-10 hours a day, and then the only time you get at home is weekends. By the time you come home after work, you want to go to sleep anyways. So always do something that you actually enjoy. And once you're married, if you're going to stop your education, or you're going to stop your work because your husband's not happy with it, are you going to be happy with it? You should always put your mental health before, because that's really important. So I agree with what you said, everything you just said now, and that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and again, to the money thing as well. Money comes and goes.
Yeah.
And not gonna lie, if you're gonna be chasing money the rest of your life, where are you gonna get? Exactly. So choose the right career. Choose the one that you want to go into, not what the culture says. Like, being a teacher, be a teacher because then you'll have holidays and you can spend time with the kids, kind of thing. But, when you can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, you can be anything you want to be. I
feel like, I've heard people say that, be a teacher so you can have holiday with the kids. But then if I'm a teacher before marriage, and, I can, if I really want to make it work and I love what I do, then I can make my profession work around my children. So, and then there's a thing that you can mark past papers, and that's in the holidays. So you can if you really want to do something, you'll find alternative routes. And I feel like people don't want to think outside the box. They just want to go with the path or the avenue that's set for them. You need to create your own destiny. You need to create your own career line.
And don't get influenced by culture.
Don't get. I agree. I don't think you should.
But have you?
But I would say respect it. Respect your culture, because that is part of your parents. What they've come, wherever they come from.
Of course.
And have that understanding with them.
But have you two ever been influenced by your culture in making certain decisions?
I would say I've is the culture.
So yes or no?
No. Yes. No, I think
yes.
you should just.
Yes. Let's just be honest. Yes, I have.
I guess so, yes, then.
Yes. But in what sense? Have you been influenced career-wise?
Yes and no.
As in the stereotypical, be a lawyer, be a teacher, be a doctor.
Okay, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I can't believe I'm about to say this live, but I was actually a very naughty child in school. Unfortunately, I've been, kicked out of 3-4 different schools, and I didn't want to go to uni. I had no interest in uni or wanting to be a solicitor or anything. My father actually said to me, "You're going to uni. It's starting tomorrow. You have to go." Oh my God. I was kind of forced into doing a degree. I'm not saying it was a bad idea because, yes, I was pushed into it. It was
But
a
look,
cultural
mashallah,
thing.
Look where you are now. You're a trainee solicitor.
Yeah, no.
Doing a training contract.
Yeah, thanks to my dad. But at the time, obviously, I was culturally pushed to that. Like, it was the norm to get a degree, then,
yeah,
you
of
know,
course. Like,
get
you have to go to
married.
university.
You have to go to uni and make
And then
your parents
you'll get
proud.
married.
Yeah.
But the job thing wasn't there.
Exactly. But now, obviously, I don't regret it. So, yeah, I was pushed into it. But now, obviously, I actually ended up loving it. And that's why I went far. But so that in that sense, yeah, I was culturally pushed.
Mariam, do you want to just quickly, briefly touch on it before we head off?
I don't have anything to like how I like.
But I think. Go on.
Do you want to?
No.
You just go for advisor.
No, because we have like 40 seconds to the adverts.
But then let me just quickly add. Then, like she said, culturally, like there is a trajectory that you should go university. But look at her now, mashallah, she's very, she's working very hard towards her career and ambition. So I think that's what I'm saying. You should respect your culture because your parents obviously want to do it for your happiness. So you just have to kind of choose your battles.
Exactly. Like, do you regret any of it?
I don't regret anything. I really am glad my dad made me do this. Now, obviously, otherwise I don't know what I'd be doing right now. But
yeah. But we'll continue this conversation after the break. Please do join us on Facebook Live. Make sure you are commenting. Text us in so we can discuss even more. So join us in a couple of minutes after the break. Assalamu alaikum.
You're listening to an Inspire FM podcast, making available our popular programs from our daily broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome back to Sister Speak on Inspire 105.1 FM. And you're here with me, Faiza, Mariam, and our special guest Zarish. Wave to the camera, guys. So just before the break, we were just speaking about women, careers and culture, and we're going to be discussing the rest of that for the rest of the show. So remember, in order to get involved in the discussion, we'd love to know your thoughts and opinions, or if you have any questions, we'll try and answer them to the best of our abilities. Text us in on 07779481822, or you can WhatsApp on 07779481822, or you can comment on our Facebook live stream. Wave again, guys. So yeah, please do let us know any thoughts, opinions, views, questions you have as well. We'll answer them. So just before the break, we did get a question in on our Facebook live stream, and it's translated to: once you get married, what was the...
Once you get married, if your mother-in-law is strict, what would a daughter-in-law do?
Yeah, so once you get married, if the mother-in-law is strict, what would the daughter-in-law do?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Sorry, I can't translate Urdu properly. So, thank you to Malik Osam Yaqub for that question. So, answers? What would you do if your mother-in-law is strict?
I think this goes back to the point. Before you get married, make sure you know the family, speak to the family beforehand. If the family are willingly accepting you before marriage as a working woman, as a career-orientated woman, and then later on they have a problem with that, then your husband should be supportive. Mm-hmm. That's not to say disrespect at all, but, your mother-in-law should always be supportive of what you want to do, especially if she knew this is your working life before you got married. Obviously, you do need to make sure you juggle your working life and your personal life as well. So when you're married, you should obviously look after your mother-in-law just like your own mother. You should spend time with her as much as you can. Of course, it's not like now when you're single, you can just go home and go to sleep because your parents are always there. You should give that time to your mother-in-law. And I do understand the frustration that she may have if she's strict. But working-wise, if she's okay with you before your marriage, you working, then she shouldn't have a problem after. And if she does, then you need to have that serious conversation with her and your husband and try and sort it out and resolve it.
Lay your cards out on the table. Literally put everything on the table. What you want, the compromises that you'll want to make, whether it's work-wise.
Don't let the peer pressure get to you, and don't let it influence you.
That you can't say anything because then they'll disapprove of you or something like that. Just whatever you do, just lay everything out on the table. It's easier like that if everything's just out in the open rather than it being kind of like kept.
Yeah, because
secret in a way.
if you say, okay, fine, mother-in-law, I won't work, then later she might say, I don't want you to go to your mother's house. Then what? Do you know what I'm saying? If you agree to one unacceptable term, then it will be it will be more and more and more. It will just be them taking advantage of you. There's nothing wrong with working, especially if you were working before marriage. So you need to lay your cards out on the table.
But I have a question for both of you. What if you're already married and you didn't lay the cards out and you're in this situation where your mother-in-law is strict? How would you guys respond?
We can only advise because we're not married.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
We're not married.
But what would you advise?
But
if you were
I
in
would
this
suggest
situation?
that end of the day, your mother-in-law is a human being, and to human being, just think, why is she, reacting this way? Try to understand her.
I feel like sometimes it goes back down to culture though, because
It is
think
down
about
to
it. Some
culture,
of them,
definitely.
like being in this generation,
You know-
being brought here and everything.
Yeah. Something that I've learned like recently is, and I went to conflict training. When someone reacts in a way and, it's unacceptable, or, they make you do things that, like force you to do something that you don't want to do, it means one of their needs are not being met. So just think about it. What is like not happening in their life that they would like to do? Maybe they have frustration, or maybe they haven't been fulfilled in one way. What is it that's making them feel like they want to take someone else's not desire but their needs? So just think about
That's
it in that
actually
sense.
really smart, and didn't think of that. I'll use that now.
Yeah, that's something I'm not gonna lie. I actually learned that from Aksa in the way she talks. That when I first came to this radio
There's
show,
another girl on our show.
one of our presenters, she said, when someone mistreats you, you should try to understand where they're coming from. And I think that's something that really resonates with me, because if someone is mistreating you, that means one of their needs are not being fulfilled, or something has happened, and that's why they, human beings are not born evil. They're not. So just try to understand them. I'm not saying it's acceptable for them to treat you that way, but just try to understand them and try to
where they're coming from.
Where they're coming from, and try to respond accordingly. And of course, if you have faith, and you keep believing Allah, Allah will definitely soften the person's heart.
Yeah.
Because you're being rightful and you're treating them with kindness. There's so many people that didn't like the Prophet, but he was still able to spread the message. Why? Because he was kind.
Yeah.
I think that's what it all boils down to.
A question from Mediha Aslam Salman. She said, whose responsibility is it to look after the children if both parents are at work?
They both are parents, obviously both the parents.
Both the parents would.
Yeah, because in the end of the day, especially, I would say in this generation, children are not going to think gender roles. They're not. They're going to think, why didn't my dad spend time with me? Why didn't my mom spend time with me? It's going to be both. They don't see it as...
it's my mom who's only supposed to be looking after me. My dad's supposed to go to work.
Yeah, it's not that. But during, our parents' generation, that was something very acceptable. And, it worked. We're not supposed to raise the generation the way we were raised. It's going to be different for the generation afterwards.
Yeah.
So you have to be, you have to move with the times. You have to move with the ideology. And you have to move with, how your children are going to think. I think
what I'd like to say to Mediha is that when both parents are working, again, go back to your point, it's the duty of both the parents to look after the child. The child wants to spend time with both the parents. You shouldn't allow your husband to be okay with you making all the sacrifices, because again, it goes back to the point of he'll start taking advantage. You both should take equal part in raising your child, because you don't want your child to grow up not having to spend that much time, not have spent that much time with your father, or not having spent that much time with your mother. He should have a balance of both. So, it's not just a mother's job.
Yeah, it's not the mother's job. And, what happens when, you have one, when you're deprived of one parent's love, the children go outside and they go to bad influences, and they try to search for that emptiness when you can fulfill that. It's your job to fulfill that.
True. Now, this is like a going back and forth kind of thing, but obviously we are talking about women, career and culture. Now we're going back to the career side of things. We did get, I think it was a call in from someone who just wanted some advice, which I think, Zarish, you would be helpful in this. When especially, for example, they've done all the necessary courses and things they needed to do. For example, with the bar, you do the BPTC, that's it. And then you'd have to go and find your pupillage.
Yeah.
or solicitors, you know, do the LPC, finding a training contract, you know the difficulty it is.
Oh, there's so much. I completely understand. I'm not going to name people, but I know so many people that have actually done their LPC degree or BPTC degree and they're struggling to find a training contract or a pupillage. And, you know, my advice would be, again, I was really fortunate. If you apply for a training contract, you'd see 99% of the firms want a LPC graduate. But I actually got it whilst doing my LPC. And the advice I'd give, the reason how I got it is because I started working at firms for free from a very young age. I did as much work experience as I could, did all the job, I did a lot of experience, got into contact with agencies, got good jobs, did a lot of free work experience, did a lot of degrees, worked hard, and do a lot of vocational schemes. Go to firms and do those summer schemes that they have. That will attract you because obviously, remember, those employers are just humans. They can see from your CV how much effort you've put into your career. So, you know, if you're struggling to find a pupillage, you need to make yourself stand out. And the only way you can do that is show them how much work experience you've done, how much vocational schemes you've done. So advice will be stick at it, get good grades, keep doing work experience, and believe me, you will find a pupillage. Don't give up. Believe me, you'll find a training contract because, you know, I didn't expect to find it until I graduated, but I found it before I graduated.
Yeah. So don't give up.
And do loads of work experience. Unfortunately, with legal career, it's such a competitive field. Everyone's doing law these days, everyone. So what you have to do, you have to show that you're better than other people. You know, you have to be competitive, unfortunately. You have to show that you're better than others. And the only way you can do that is by doing a lot of work experience, expose yourself, go to networking events, get links. Connect with big people.
So networking.
Yeah, networking is important.
Definitely key. Because I think once you spark a conversation, and even generally as well in any job, you know, like when you go to networking events or anything like that, you can find people from a whole different range of careers, whether it's to do with medicine and pharmacy or even teaching and even like history or geography or anything like that.
That's really true because, you know, when I first started my degree, I was really interested in creative writing and I still am. And, you know, it's, again, that's kind of a cultural thing to think that's it's not very tangible kind of career that you can do because it's just very abstract. But again, I went to loads of events. I went to a networking event and I went to this event where they published their first literary zine. So a zine is like a magazine, literary magazine where they have pictures, poems. It's all creative stuff inside one magazine, but it's very contemporary. And I went there and I really loved the concept of it and I networked. And because it was their first and I showed a lot of support for it, and it was students from SOAS who started this initiative, and it was Muslims. So I was like, wow, like they created a platform for creative Muslims to put their work out there. Alhamdulillah, next year I got published in my first literary
Wow,
zine.
alhamdulillah.
So networking is really important. If you really want to do something and you're really interested, just go for it. Go to networking events, as she said. Do everything in your capacity to, you know, reach what you want to do. There's so many opportunities out there. We shy away from grabbing them.
I think it's sometimes unfortunate as well because certain degrees get downplayed. Like there's this, you know, the typical ones that, you know, you should be doing. So whether it's
law, medicine, dentist, engineering,
IT, English, language and lit, and then it's like other degrees and stuff that you shouldn't really do. Or if you don't have a degree, then like, you know, you're completely struck off and it's like the worst thing ever. How would you deal with these kinds of, you know, these stereotypes then? Especially if someone, like, you know, you want to pursue it, but maybe family's not all for it. How would you deal with it? Because these are the things that in our culture, you know, some of us have to fight. And I know a few people who have to not literally fight, but like, you know, have to fight for their right to go to uni, fight for the right to, like, you're even living out for university as well. Like, it's like, you know, you can go to university, but like can't travel here this time, can't travel there this time,
Yeah.
can't live out, that kind of stuff.
I think just be persistent, because one of my friends in university, I met him, I told Faiza actually, I met him on the second day of university, and he's got a massive following on Instagram. He's a poetry artist. He writes poetry, and his parents were really against him because, he's a man, why is he writing poetry? So he's an Asian. He published his first book in his first year. He was on Islam Channel yesterday.
Wow.
So he represents charities, and he goes to all these events, and mashallah, he's really up there. And his mum was the most proudest when he brought home his first book. And
That's so cute.
culturally, it's very uncertain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, why is my son doing poetry? That's not very masculine.
Yeah.
But now she's the one promoting his book. So it's just being persistent. If you do what you love, and you'll actually reach your goals.
And I think, we're really lucky. We live in England. We've got a lot of support. We've got student finance. We've got all these grants. We've got all of this. If not even your parents, if someone's pushing you away from education, you've got all of this support. You've got student finance, loans, grants, you've got scholarships, all of that. If you really want it, you can do it. Don't let people dictate your life, because they're probably not even going to be there for you when you're 30 or, down the line when you're trying to build a future for yourself. So, utilize all that support we've got in the UK. UK is a wonderful country, and it provides us with so much privileges, so always utilize everything that we've been offered.
Yeah, true. I think that's the hard thing. A lot of people sometimes, they don't realize how much access they have to certain things, and that could be so helpful for them.
Yeah.
And also what I wanted to touch base was on, how you were saying how your friend, how they would be what kind of career is this? For females, it's why is she going into engineering? Isn't that a man's role? And like you said with the barrister thing, that's a man's role. Do you think we'll ever overcome those stereotypes?
I don't think we'll ever overcome it, but we'll mitigate that misconception. I think it will reduce, because we'll be more attacking these stereotypes, and we'll try to represent ourselves in those fields. So once we start infiltrating them and representing ourselves, I think there'll be a different perception slowly, because it's all about education. If we have set ways of a set ideology that this career is not for a particular gender, then of course, if that's going to be maintained and sustained, then of course people are going to continue to think that. But if you start to, attack it and start to, allow people to break that misconception, then slowly people are going to, see that actually this is okay for, our children to go into.
Yeah, and I do think, I don't think we'll ever get rid of that, especially in our Asian community. But I do think it's getting a lot. It is becoming calmer now. People are seeing that there's because there was recently, and I think it was a journal where there are more female solicitors in the UK than there are males, and majority of them were Asian Pakistani women. I was really proud to see that. And seeing that, I do think in our culture,
like a huge boost.
Yeah, it's a huge boost. And obviously in our culture, they're seeing that, oh look, they are actually doing something good with their life. They are getting somewhere far with their life. They
what, other than getting married?
Yeah, no, don't get married, guys. Until you
That's her own opinion, guys.
get married, but when you feel like you're ready to get married, don't get forced into marriage. And that's what I'd say.
That's another whole topic, especially culturally.
Yeah.
But I think overall, will we overcome these stereotypical views and opinions?
Not fully, no.
On women and marriage?
Not fully. Unfortunately, in my personal opinion, I don't think we will. But it is going to get, it is reducing more and more every day.
On women and marriage?
On women and
careers and marriage?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because of all the achievements that women are now doing, it's becoming quite viral now.
I think it's quite important for men to support the women in their life that are attacking the stereotype. And your wife went to school, she went to do her degree. They support her,
and
because she's a role model for your kids.
Hard work, and especially the money as well that's gone into that as well. That's another thing.
Yeah,
because you have to remember, I always say to my mom, Khadija radiallahu anha, she is my role model, because she was the princess of Makkah. She was the best businesswoman. Then you have the other prophet wife, she was the best scholar. We have amazing role models, but for some reason our community, and this is my own opinion and this is what I feel, I feel like our community does not allow women to flourish because, you know, they think that, you know, there's like, it's just, I feel like it's because of culture, you know, they don't want to see women flourish because they're scared that they're going to be, you know, quote unquote westernized, or you know, that's they're gonna be subjected.
What will people say?
Yeah, what will people say? Or it would be like, oh, they're gonna become corrupted. They're gonna move away from their religion.
Or they're gonna become like you said, too westernized.
Yeah, or they're gonna move away from their religion. But you know, you get angry when people say that women are oppressed, but you don't allow them to showcase what they're capable of.
Because you think that, you know, you're fearing that they're becoming too westernized. But remember, you're in the UK as well. It's all about trust as well. That's your own family, your own daughters, your own sisters.
You know, the idea of westernized, I feel like you're scared that her culture's going to go away. But ultimately, in my opinion, I definitely don't really assign that much myself to culture. It's mostly religion.
It's religion over culture, completely.
So, you know, and it's quite ironic sometimes because when you follow religion and it disregards culture, you're becoming westernized, but really you're following religion. Like religion empowers you and it allows you to flourish and it tells you to, you know, gain knowledge.
And we have so many role models religiously as well. Like,
yeah, of course.
Look at all the Prophet's wives and look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like, you know, how much they can all achieve, and look at, and why can't we do the same?
We should encourage our wives, our sisters, our daughters to, you know, pursue their ambitions, pursue that. Of course, it's in the field of Islam because there's a reason why there's guidance. It's to make sure that, you know, you're safe. You know, it's to empower you. We have so many rights, but unfortunately, you know, I feel sometimes that our rights are taken away because of cultural thinking, and I think that's the problem, where the problem derives from.
Thoughts on what will people say? The lovely phrase.
You shouldn't think about what people will say. You should think what God will say, because tomorrow if you die, you're not gonna. You're the way you dictated your life. People are not gonna save you from the hell of fire. It's just gonna be you. You should have thought of what Allah's gonna think of you, not what people would say.
You?
Yeah, basically that, you know, you shouldn't care about other people's opinion as long as you think you're doing the right thing, and as long as your parents are okay with it, you know, you shouldn't care, and just think what would, think about the hereafter, think about God, what would Allah say, and that's all that should matter. Don't care about what people will say.
But it's a cultural thing. Would you ever, in the future, do you have certain... Because the way we've been brought up now compared to the way our parents have been brought up, they raised us a certain way. Now, the way we raise our children, would you do it a completely different way or the same way? Or?
I think, as I said before, you can't raise your kids the way you were raised because it's a different generation.
Yeah.
So you have to be
Would there be certain
mindful.
things that you'd keep?
Of course, when in terms of religion, culturally, you'd have to, you know, assess the situation at the time, you know.
Would you ever have the whole that idea of the whole what will people say though?
No, because that's against.
Do you think
religion.
you'd ever come across that with your child?
Oh, that's a tough one.
So long as the Asian community exists, that ideology is going to exist. But if you're strong...
do you think you would ever, at any point?
No, because I would be conscious that, you know, if I take away my child's right, Allah's watching me. So I'll be conscious like, okay, wait, if I do that, then I'm enforcing that what would people say above God's power. That's the reality.
Yeah.
You're putting people before, you know, above God, and that's like the worst thing you can do.
And as long as you've raised your child, you know, with good discipline, good manners, and knowing about their religion, what will people say shouldn't matter, because you know that you've raised your child to be a good person, to be a good Muslim, and you should trust your child over what people will say.
Yeah.
So
when it comes to the careers, what will people say if you're an engineer? What will people say?
I will be honest though, when it comes, but there is one thing I do think I will be culturally, I would want my kids to go to university and get a degree. I would want them, but saying that, I wouldn't force them to do the typical engineering if you're a man, or doctor, lawyer. No, they can do whatever they want, but do go to uni, please. You know, that's all that matters.
For Zarish's future kids.
Uni.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Overall, when it comes to culture and when it comes to our careers, do you ever combine the two at all? Have you ever come across a time where both of them have just kind of combined or clashed when it comes to...
I think in terms of people, when they approach marriage, I think culture and religion becomes a very blurred kind of thing, like, because, you know, culture says one thing.
Culture, career.
No, in terms of career, marriage, I think especially marriage, I feel like culture and religion becomes very, very blurred, and you begin to enforce culture by using religion texts, and I think that's just so. Like,
so then, where can we find that point where it's like we can balance our marriage and our career?
But then, it's really hard because this is going back to the topic we were speaking about earlier, women at employment. When women are married or if they have a child, I have noticed one thing, that they're discriminated by the employers. Oh, she's married, she'll probably go on maternity, or she's got a child, she won't be given her whole time into into the work or anything like that. So, putting that barrier, it's hard. But, like I said, if you just make sure before you get married, you speak to the family beforehand, you lay out your cards on the table and show them that you can do the best of both worlds. Come back from work and spend time with the family, spend time with your mother-in-law, and just be the best at both worlds, and don't do anything that would probably upset them.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything? No?
I don't have anything to add now.
To that, I think it's just finding a good balance between your culture, your marriage, to those who are married, obviously. But I think in the future, is it ever a fear for you? Have you ever had that not fear, or that thought that, once I'm married, I'm going to have to kind of slowly kind of move away from those long working hours, or putting my 110% into work?
Yes, if I'm being honest, because obviously as a woman, you're expected to have children. You will have to take that break from work, and obviously
and the roles and the responsibilities.
All of that, and then having to come back from work and probably cook for your husband as well. I do think there is that little fear, but then as long as you have a supportive husband, good employers, and you can try and balance your work and your personal life, it's fine. Even if you have to take a gap year, stay into education, because I know a lot of people that have took gap year from universities, but even though they've took gap years, they're still reading every day, researching every day, doing work experience every day. So even if you take a gap year, stick to that profession. I can't speak now. And keep focused.
So your overall advice to wrap up, in terms of careers and women?
Do what you want to do.
Yeah,
do what you want to do.
Be persistent. Be mindful.
Darish?
Do what you want to do. Definitely don't let people influence your career. Don't let people influence your job, and just do what makes you happy.
Yeah. Overall, stop and move away from that ideology of what will people say, what will people think. Come to a compromise. Come to laying your cards out on the table. Speak to your parents. I think a lot of people think, their parents are going to say no straight away, so they can't ask, or they get scared. Just say it. You never know what will happen. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our show. Very interesting show, I'd say. Thank you, Zarish, for joining us this week.
No problem.
Please do join us next week, inshallah, on our show 6 to 7 on Inspire 105.1 FM. Thank you.
Bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.